Welcome. Amazing. All right, here we go, my friends. A very special evening. And don't forget about the babka. Just saying. Just say, hey, listen. Live. I wrote in the email live babka. It's not even like live plus babka. We're calling it live babka. That's it. The babka is alive. It's a thing. Type of babka. Living, breathing babka. Okay.
But virtual babka is more consistent with my diet.
Say again, which one?
Virtual babka is more consistent with my diet.
Indeed. But the babka, here's how it works. The babka Torah studies does not have any calories. It's this magical, right? Ed, take two pieces. I'm just saying. All right. By the way, all the claims made in class are not scientifically proven and should not be taken as fact. That's my disclaimer. I was told by the to mention that to mention that. Okay, very special announcement. Tonight, the class has been sponsored in my honor, in honor of my birthday, by a very special group of individuals. I'm going to mention some names, by the way, if you want to get in on this. I'm sure it's not too late. So we'll call this a group information. Can we call it that? Information. Okay. Yeah. Good, because we don't want to leave anybody out. So, but don't feel pressure either way. Like it's like either
I think you already did.
I have here, who do we have? We have Steve Horowitz, Joy Maxey, Eve Bogan, Charna Perlow, Donna Herbert, Linda Soref, Sandrine Simons, and I know as well, we have some more folks that also gave as well. So if you're not mentioned, you're mentioned in my heart, even though I don't have it on the list. But thank you very much to all of you who participated, and all of you, all of those who wish to participate. It's never too late. It's never too late. And we don't have to wait till the next birthday. I'm just saying, it's like a whole birthday celebration. I should also mention this Friday night, we're doing a special Shabbat dinner in honor of my birthday. Everyone's invited. You got the invitation and you thought you didn't want to come, but you want to come. It's not too late to change. If you didn't get the invitation, I don't know why, it should have gone out. But either way, we'd love to have you. If you want to join, just let me know and we'll get you in. Okay, all the announcements aside, let's jump into today's class. Hey, how's it going? Okay, so let's jump into the class. We have, in my opinion, one of the finest classes you'll hear. In fact, I will say this. This is probably going to be the best Torah class you're going to get tonight. I mean, I feel like pretty confident in saying that. Tonight, it's getting late, so I feel like I have, like the time is on my side right now. But really, like all joking aside, this is going to be a memorable class. And I'm calling the shot. This is like Babe Ruth. Remember Babe Ruth? He called the shot. This is a called shot, home run class. It's not me. This is a sikha. This is a talk of the Rebbe. This is volume 16 of Likutei Sichos, a collection of the Rebbe's talks. Number 4 on this week's Torah portion, the 4th one of this from this Torah portion, and it is absolute fire. I even wanted to put a fire emoji in my email that I sent out. If you don't get the email for Torah studies, the one that I send out usually very close to the start of the class, let me know. I'll get you on that list. But I tried to include a fire emoji. For some reason, my Gmail won't send emojis. I feel like other people send emojis. I can't send an emoji in my email. It comes out with like a bunch of weird question marks, right? Maybe I need to do it for my phone. I don't know how it's done. Whatever. Anyway, it's fine. If the emoji is the worst thing, then that's okay. This class, I'll tell you what we're going to do tonight. Buckle up, get comfortable, grab an extra piece of babka. We've already established that this is non-calorie babka, both the virtual and the live version. Buckle up and get ready, because what we're going to do tonight is explain. Oh, you have tea, right? We have tea. We have babka. I got my seltzer. Yeah, I brought a seltzer. That's how geared up I'm locked in for tonight's class. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take a law, a halacha, that comes from the Torah. Obviously, it's where all Jewish law comes from. It comes from the Torah. It's explained. It's detailed. It's analyzed in the Talmud. So we're going to explain the law. I'm going to ask a few questions on the law, and then we're going to proceed to give a mystical view of the law from A to Z that will answer all of the questions that we have on the law, but we're going to learn it on a completely different plane. So one thing that's amazing about Torah is that it has multiple layers of understanding. Now, you and I know this because we've talked about this so many times. Pardes means the orchard of Torah. Pardes is the acronym, Pei Reish Dalet Samach. It's an acronym, 4 letters. It's an acronym of the 4 layers of Torah expounding. It's not the right word. Torah exposition. We have Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Sod. Pshat, Remez, Drush, Sod, Pardes. What is Pshat, Remez, Drush, Sod? Pshat is the simple meaning. Remez is the allegorical meaning, the hints. Drush is the homiletical meaning. And you're probably thinking, what's allegorical, what's homiletical? That's Remez and Drush. Kidding. Allegorical means what something hints to, what it alludes to. And Drush is kind of like a drasha, like a sermon, like inspiration from the idea. And then Sod, the final word of the acronym, Sod, is the mystical component. Oh, it sounds like, Linda, can you check who is, thank you. All right, thank you. So here's the deal. Torah exists on all 4 levels. When you look at anything in Torah, whether it's a story, whether it's a law, it doesn't matter. You look at something in Torah, you can understand it, you can explore it on any of these 4 levels. And the truth is, you can go up and down the escalator of Jewish thought. You can weave in and out. You can start off from Pshat and then goes Remez and Drush and Sod. You can understand Torah on multiple dimensions. So it's really a profound experience. Tonight, we're going to start on a simple level of halacha and then go to the mystical sheet for the downstairs class. Yeah, there's another class. Okay. Anyway, hey, we're young also. I'm just going to say, yeah, I just had a birthday, still young. Still young. What was I talking about again? Joking. All right, that was a joke. All right, for all you whippersnappers out there, here's the deal. As I stroke my beard, that's getting a little bit. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to start off with the law. As I said this before, we're going to ask a few questions. We're going to explain it on a mystical level, and it's going to be amazing. All right, let's do it. Let's jump right in. The law is called Modeh B'Miktzas. There, I've said it. Modeh B'Miktzat. What does Modeh mean? Who's got Modeh? Modeh. Modeh ani. Modeh. Modeh. Modeh means an acknowledgement, an admission, confession. Not really confession.
Testimony.
Testimony. That's more edut. Modeh is, I don't know, we would say testimony. Modeh is more along the lines of an admission, acknowledgement. Okay, so Modeh b'miktzat means that someone admits, but only b'miktzat. Miktzat means halfway, partially. Let me explain. Let me give you a scenario. I'm going to give you 2 scenarios. You know what? Let's do this. I want you guys to tell me what you think the law should be. And let me give you 2 cases. Okay? 2 litigants come to court. We're going to call them, in classic Talmudic analysis, we're going to apply the names Reuven and Shimon. That's always how it's done in Talmudic discourse. You just go by the 12 tribes. You start from the top. However many characters you need, you pull them into the story, right? Whether or not they're willing. So we have Reuven and Shimon. Hey there. You're here for the Torah class? Welcome. Tell me your name. Lexi. Fantastic. Good. Welcome. Here, grab a booklet. Are you? Yeah. Right here is good. Absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to give you a scenario and you tell me what you think about the scenario. Okay, here we go. Imagine Reuven, litigant number 1, drags Shimon into court. And he tells the court, he says, I lent Shimon $100. Says Reuven, I lent this guy $100. And he owed me the money. It was a 30-day loan, and he owed me the money and all that stuff after 30 days. And 1 second, everybody's muted. And 30 days passed, and I went to collect the money, And you know what happened? I came to Shimon, and Shimon said, La hadam. You know what lahadam means? Lahadam means loy hayu devarim me'olam. It means never happened. Never happened. So Reuven says, I lent this guy money. Oh, tell me which class?
I don't know. I was Facebook messaging to Town.
Okay, so it might be a downstairs class.
Okay.
There's one downstairs also. Either one is going to be good.
It's like the
Is the Kabbalah of character? There you go. No worries, no worries. Yeah, you go right down there, down the stairs. Okay. See that? Babka.
Wait, get some popcorn for you.
Well, it's okay. She let it. Yes. Okay, back to our story. So imagine Reuven drags Shimon into court, and Reuven says to Shimon, thanks for the clarifying. No, it's fine. But this, you missed this excitement. See, if you're in here in person, you get to be part of the excitement of the miscommunications. That's like the beautiful thing. Okay, so back to our story. Reuven drags Shimon into court, and Reuven says, this guy Shimon borrowed $100 from me. It's 30 days. It's passed, and I came to him to collect. And you know what he says? Never happened. This guy's denying the claim about the money. I want my money. So it happens. So the court says to Shimon, "No, what do you say?" Shimon says, "You heard the story. This guy claims he gave me money 30 days ago. Never happened. I never got a penny from this guy." Now they're going to turn to Reuven and say, "Okay, Reuven, you claim that you get lent the money. Do you have a document that says that a signed document with witnesses that says that you lent the money?" No. Are there witnesses that saw you give him money? No. Okay, let me stop here for a second. Reuven claims he gave $100 to Shimon as a loan, and now he's trying to collect. Shimon says never happened, and there's no proof, no witnesses, no contract, no document, no video evidence, nothing. Garnish. You be the judge. You ready? You be the judge. What's the law? What do you say? Does Shimon owe the money? Yes or no? Based on what I just gave you.
No.
No.
Oh.
No. Anybody say yes? You're saying we don't know. We don't know. Can you force Shimon? Can you find Shimon liable to pay the money based on what's presented? No. Okay. But now let me ask you another question. Same scenario. Reuven drags Shimon to court. Reuven says, I gave this guy $100 30 days ago, and I'm trying to collect, and I'm not getting the money, and I need the court's intervention. Court says to Shimon, what do you say? Shimon says, okay, here's the deal. This is scenario number 2. It's a different scenario. A little bit different. Listen to the twist. He says, okay, let me tell you what's going on. He tells the court, Shimon does. He says, I actually did borrow money from Reuven. However, it wasn't $100, it was 50. Okay. So Reuven claims he lent him $100. Shimon says, I did borrow money, but it wasn't 100. It was 50. So what do you think the ruling should be? $50. What about the other 50? No evidence. Okay.
But could there be benefit? There should be evidence that he benefited from the additional $50. And if that's the case, there should be damages.
You're talking about seizing bank accounts and phone records. We're existing in a Talmudic times. How are you going to prove how he used the money? I'm saying, I hear you.
You start with 1 chicken, you end up with 3 chickens. There's 2 extra chickens.
The case of the old increasing chickens. Right. I hear you. I would not balk at that theory.
But what if the fox got the chickens in the meantime and ate them?
This is true. Good. So, but let's think about this scenario. So Reuven says
exactly.
Reuven says I lent them $100. Shimon says I only borrowed 50. This is a classic case. Let me say the 2 Hebrew words I told you before of modeh b'miktzat, where he admits to half or to a partial amount. So Shimon is not saying I never borrowed money. I know what he's talking about. He's like, I've never seen this guy before in my life. He's not saying that. He's saying I did borrow money, but it's not the 100, it's the 50. So he's modeh, he's admitting, but only b'miktzat, only partially. Here is a very interesting wrinkle in the law. Listen to this. Halacha says the following. The 50 that he admits, obviously he has to pay. He says he owes it, so then pay it. If he says he borrowed $50, so that 50 is off the table, that needs to be paid. What about the other 50? Comes along halach and adds, listen to this, adds an interesting wrinkle. That second 50, the defendant, in this case, Shimon, is required by Jewish law to take an oath, to promise, to swear. We'll talk about what that looks like in a moment. To take an oath, a halachically valid oath, that he did not borrow a cent more than $50. If he's willing to take that oath and he takes that oath, then he's only on the hook for the 50. But if he says, you know what, I'm not taking the oath, we hit him for the whole 100. So what I've given you are two scenarios. I would hope that your minds are one, that you're thinking, like, what's going on here? Why is the law different in one case versus the other, right? Because let's break down the two cases. This is straight up Talmud right now. This is straight up Talmudic analysis. Okay, again, let's break down the two cases. The first case is where he says, what's it called in Talmudic language? This is called Kofer Bakol. Kofer Bakol means he denies everything. That Reuven says, I lent you 100, and Shimon says, never happened. Never happened. Don't know what you're talking about. You're lying. I never borrowed a cent. And there, obviously, in both cases, there's no proof. So in halacha rules, the Talmud says, nothing. You don't do a thing, no oath, no money, nothing. He's off the hook. Comes along the second case of Moed B'Miktsas, where he says, I didn't borrow anything. He says, I borrowed 50, but not 100. So he admits partially. Suddenly the law changes. The 50 that he admits, he pays. The 50 that he denies, instead of being off the hook, like we said before about the 100, now he's on the hook, at least to the extent of taking an oath, which is a very severe thing. Otherwise, he'll have to pay it. The question is why? Why is it different? There's two questions. Number one, how do we know that it's different? The answer is because the Torah tells us in this week's Torah portion, which we're going to get to in a moment. There's a scriptural verse that tells us that Moed B'Miktsas, when you admit partially, an oath is required in that case. But the Talmud adds a psychological layer that I'll just share with you right now. And then all the texts that we're going to do are going to reinforce what we're doing outside. I figured this way we'll at least understand it before just grappling and then kind of like creating it from the text. Let me explain it this way, and then we'll go into some text. Psychologically, the Talmud says the following. Most people don't have the chutzpah to look at a person that they borrowed money from and to look in their eyes and say, I don't know what you're talking about. I never borrowed a cent. Most people wouldn't have the temerity, maybe back in the day, most people wouldn't have the temerity, i.e. the chutzpah, the brazenness to say, to look that person who lent you money in the face and say, I don't know what you're talking about. But to say, oh, I did borrow money, but I think you're wrong about the amount. I remember this amount. You remember that amount? That a person would say. A person, the Talmud assesses that the average person is not going to lie to such an extreme, but might lie if they can cut a little bit of a corner, shave a little bit of gelt off of the amount. Are you with me on this psychological analysis? Therefore, the Talmud says, when the guy says, yeah, I borrowed money, but it was only 50, red flags, red flags, red flags. Oh, you're admitting already? Take an oath. If somebody says never happened, we have no grounds to give them an oath. What are the grounds to apply an oath, to force them to have an oath? They said never happened. We don't assume that somebody is such a brazen, bold-faced liar unless we have other proof as such. So we say you deny it, there's no proof, go home. You're good, you're fine. But somebody who says, oh, I borrowed money. Oh, you did borrow money, but now you're trying to, you might be trying to cut some corners, shave a little off the total. All right, take an oath. You understand the psychology? We might disagree with the psychology, right? Listen, once we get into logical, we call this svara. Once you get into logical, analysis, and this is really psychological analysis, understanding the psyche of someone who's trying to you bend the truth a little bit. Ken Mendingan, as they say, you can go both ways. You can say, no, somebody wouldn't say that. They would say that. This is the Talmudic approach, and it explains the verses. So let's do this inside. Open up your books or your booklets to Mishpatim. Oh, this week's Torah portion, Mishpatim, a book of laws. We move from the narrative of the Bible to the legal elements of the Bible, a lot of civil law. torts and damages and other forms of law are discussed in this week's Torah portion. We are going to look at text 1 on page 47 in your booklets. I'm going to put it up on the screen as well. Let me get it ready. And let's jump in. I'm going to read all these texts for right now because there's a lot of nuance here. I want to make sure that it's that nothing gets lost. Okay, this is from Mishpatim, text 1, Exodus 22:8. Here we go. For any sinful word, none of this is going to make sense. Trust me, the verse is not going to make sense, but I'm going to do my best to explain. For any sinful word, for a bull, for a donkey, for a lamb, for a garment, for any lost article, concerning which he will say that this is it, the pleas of both parties shall come to the judges, and whoever the judges declare guilty shall pay twofold to his neighbor. I told you so. This doesn't make any sense. The verse at face value, there's no rhyme or reason to this verse. It's a jumble of words. There's a sinful word followed by bulls, donkeys, lambs, and garments, or any lost object. What are we? What's the sinful word concerning that which he will say that this is it? Who says this is it? Since when does someone say this is it? This is what? What are we even talking about here? None of this makes sense. So let's keep this up. Let's keep up text 1. Let me tell you what it's talking about according to the Talmud. This is why you can't understand Jewish law without the Talmud. Talmud says, here's the case. The case is, and it's a variation from the case that I just gave you with the loan, but it's the same concept. Imagine, I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Imagine not you, Ruvain, same people. Ruvain is headed out of town. He's going on vacation. Ruvain is going to Cancun. That's it. Ruvain's like, I'm done with this. This is ridiculous. It's winter in Atlanta. It's like 55 degrees. This is crazy. I'm out. Okay, that was a joke. So I'm out of here. So he's going to Cancun. He has 3 chickens. The aforementioned 3 chickens. Ruvain knows that if he leaves his 3 chickens out in the cold winter of Atlanta, the chickens are not going to make it. So he goes to his friend Shimon's house, knocks on the door, says, Shimon, can you take my 3 chickens for a week while I'm in Cancun? Shimon says, sure. Great. Comes back after a week. Shimon, I'm back. Whoa, Reuven, you have a nice tan. Yes. All right. Can I get my chickens back? And Shimon says, bad news. Bad news. Remember those 3 chickens? Yeah. Only one of them, I only have one of them to return. What happened? 2 of them got stolen in the middle of the night. Somehow, in the middle of the night, they were stolen. They're gone. I only have 1 left. And Reuven takes him to court. He says, I think this guy's lying. I gave him 3 chickens. He's giving me back 1 chicken. He's coming up with the story of theft. Fabricated. I don't believe him. There's no proof. What does the court say? The 1 chicken, of course, he has to give it to him. What about the other 2? Moda b'miktsas. The same scenario that I told you before about the loan. He admits to getting the chickens to watch. If he said, chickens, what chickens? Chicken? What? Schnitzel? No, live chicken. You never give me live chickens. When did you give me live chickens? If he denies it and there's no proof and there's no document and there's no evidence, well, then how do you extract chickens from a guy who says I never got chickens? But if the guy says I got chickens, but I only have now 1 chicken, I only have partial chicken. I have moda b'miktsas. I got partial chicken for you. At that point, yeah, what's going to happen? The court is going to cluck and say, it's not even a thing. The court is going to say, you got to give back the chicken that you have, and the other chickens that you say you don't have, we're not sure. You got to promise that you got to take an oath that you don't actually have. This is again moda b'miktsas. Let me pull up this text again. Let's look inside again. Look back at text number 1. Text 1. For any sinful word implies that this guy might be lying. For a bull, for a donkey, for a lamb, for a garment, might as well just say for a chicken. For any lost article. Lost article meaning the 2 chickens that are missing in my scenario. Okay, concerning that which he will say that this is it. The guy who took the chickens in will say, this is it. This is all I have left because the other ones were stolen. You with me? The pleas of both parties shall come to the judges. And whoever the judges declare guilty shall pay twofold for his neighbor. That means that if he's caught lying and he did steal it actually, then he has to pay twice. But otherwise, he has to take an oath. Otherwise, he has to take an oath. Shall come to the judges means that the judges will then apply an oath. And this is what the Talmud says. Let's take a look at text number 2. I gave you 2 examples of moda b'miktsas. I want to be very clear here. 2 examples of moda b'miktsas partial admission, whether it's a loan or whether it's a deposit. Whether it's a loan, the guy claims I gave him 100. He says you only gave me 50, or whether it's a deposit. The guy says, I gave you 3 chickens, and he says, oh, you know what? It could even be this case. What if the guy, forget he says it's stolen. What happens if the guy comes back after vacation? He says, where are my 3 chickens? He says, 3 chickens. You only gave me 1 chicken. It's the same scenario. Let's keep it easier like that. This guy claims 3 chickens. You know what? You want to make it easier? 100 chickens. And he has 50 chickens left. And he's giving back 50 chickens. He says, I only have 50. You only gave me 50, not 100 chickens. It's the same scenario. You have to give back, obviously, what you claim you got, what you admit that you got. And the others, you have to take an oath. Here's the Talmud Bava Kama, text number 2. Rabbi Chia bar Abba said, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, regarding one who falsely states about a deposit that the thief stole it, he's not obligated to take an oath. We don't know if he's falsely claiming or not. But somebody who says, no, it is the theft case. I should have stuck with my example of the chickens that were stolen, that he claims were stolen. If the guy says all the chickens were stolen, yeah, he's not obligated to take an oath until he denies part of the claim and admits the part of the claim, right? If he says, I have some, but I don't have some, oh, now we're getting murky. Now it's getting murky. Moda b'mikzas, murky, now you have to take an oath. What is the reason for this? Says the Talmud, as the verse states, concerning which he will say that this is it. In other words, this is it. I only owe you this, or I only have this to give you back, etc., indicating an admittance of only this part, but no more. It's moda b'miktsas that triggers the oath, but outright denial of the whole thing, there's no oath. Psychologically, the Talmud explains, this is what I told you before, it is in accordance with the statement of Rabbi. Rabbi gives us the psychology, as Rabbi said. For what reason did the Torah say that one who admits to a part of the claim must take an oath? A guy who denies it all the way, there's no oath. Guy who admits, you give him an oath. It seems like counterintuitive. The guy who says, no, nothing, never happened, right? No oath. The guy who says, oh, I owe you 50, suddenly you give him an oath. You're more stringent on the guy who admits. Yeah, it is because there is a presumption that a person does not exhibit insolence, chutzpah, by lying in the presence of his creditor. And this person who denies part of the claim actually wants to deny all the debt so as to be exempt. In other words, he does want to lie the whole way through. The fact that he does not deny all of it is because a person does not exhibit insolence. In other words, the fact that he only denies part of it, is an indication that he's actually lying, not that he's telling the truth. He's trying to make his lie more credible. He would love to say never happened, but to make his lie more credible, he's admitting to part of it. He's saying, I never borrowed the 50, I never borrowed any money. He's saying, I borrowed 50. That's his way of skimming from the top. Therefore, the merciful one, Hashem, God, imposed an oath on him to ensure that he will admit to the full debt. That is the Talmud and the Talmudic analysis. I'm going to take a deep breath, or not, and check in. Does this make sense? Yes? Moda b'miktsas, admitting partially. The Torah says, the Talmud explains, you're on the hook for whatever you admit, obviously, and the rest, you take an oath. Why is it different than a case of outright denial? We say outright denial is so chutzpah, we assume that you're actually telling the truth. You have to be such a bold-faced liar to say, I never got money from that guy at all, that if you pull off that lie, there's nothing we can do. But the moment you start saying, I did borrow, however, this and that, okay, all right, stop. Red flags, take an oath about the rest that you're denying. If you take the oath, if you promise, we'll let you go. If you don't, pay up the full amount. That's the law. This is halach. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. Listen, the whole class is predicated on us understanding the law. So I had to make sure that we got this straight. But let's pick up the pace a drop because there's so much to get to. What is an oath in Jewish law? What does it look like? Text 3. How serious is an oath? How severe is an oath? I'm glad you asked. Text 3, the Talmud says the following. The judges say to him, before administering an oath. This is anyone who's administered an oath, but of course we're talking about a specific case, but just keep this in mind, general knowledge here. The judges say to him, beware that the entire world trembled when the Holy One, blessed be he, said at Mount Sinai, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. When you take an oath in Jewish law, you swear by God's name. You remember the 10 commandments? God said, don't take my name in vain. Be careful, bro. Be careful. You're about to take an oath with God's name. Be careful. continues the Talmud, beware. The Talmud says the judges would tell this to the litigant about to take an oath. Beware that with regard to all of the other transgressions of the Torah, punishment is exacted only from the transgressor. Whereas here, with regard to falsely swearing in court, punishment is exacted from him and from his family. Talk about threats. Beware, the judges would continue, that with regard to all of the other transgressions of the Torah, punishment is exacted only from the transgressor, whereas here punishment is exacted from him and the entire world. If you lie under oath in a Jewish court, the whole world is going to shake. Beware that with regard to all other transgressions of the Torah, a merit will work to delay punishment for 2 or 3 generations. You might get off the hook and it might only hit a little bit later. Whereas here, a punishment is exacted immediately. You're going to pay the price if you're lying. Things that fire and water cannot destroy, a false oath can destroy. They scare the litigant out of his mind. That is the intention of the judges, to really instill, there's no other way to say it, the fear of God in this person before they take an oath. Says the Talmud, if the defendant says, I will not take an oath, forget it. There's no way I'm not. The court dismisses him immediately and rules him liable to pay. That's the way it works. The court's agenda is to forewarn the litigant who is about to take an oath about the severity of such an oath and to encourage them to just pay the money. Pay the money. You with me on this? Taking an oath is a very serious thing, which means that the court is trying to avoid litigants taking an oath at all costs, which leads to the following question. Okay, stay with me in the train of thought. Stay with me. The only way moda b'miktsas, partial admission, kicks in is when the claimant puts in the claim, in the first case that I gave you, the loan, 150. When the claimant puts in the claim in the court for 100 and the defendant responds with a 50, that's when you have moda b'miktsas. So you have 100 on the table and the guy says, well, it's only 50. That's partial admittance. What would happen? What would happen if the defendant presented his claim first in court? What if the defendant came to court and said the following, hey guys, I owe this guy $50. And the court says, great, pay him $50. And then the guy counters and says, oh, you owe me another 50. And he says, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not moda b'miktsas. You with me on this? Moda b'miktsas, partial admission, is only when you have a full 100 on the table and the guy says 50. He counters that with a 50. He halves it or partially admits to it. But if literally the order of the claims were reversed, and it sounds very, very silly, but if the order of the claims were reversed, if first the defendant would speak up in court and say, I owe this guy $50. Well, the court would say, so we're good. So give him $50. Done. 50 is off the table. All that's left is now 50. And the guy says, I lent you 50. And he says, no, you didn't. It's not moda b'miktsas anymore. Are you with me on that? Because yes. Anybody with me? Yes. Sort of. I'm getting a lot of blank stares. There's so much blank stares. All right. Let me try this again. Let me try. I know. I'm sorry. Okay. It's a Talmud class. Got to have tough.
You mentioned, and the guy comes back and says, you owe me 50, but
right. Because
another
the 50 is off the table. No, the 50 is off the table. The guy already said,
right, okay.
The defendant, let's say the defendant speaks first. He says, Shimon says, I owe Reuven $50. Pause. The court would say, all right, give him $50. He gives him $50. What's Reuven going to say now? He still owes me 50. But I'm saying if you reverse the order, if you break it down frame by frame, right? So Reuven now says, okay, but now he owes me 50. And to that 50, what does Shimon say? Nothing. He's not moda b'miktsas anymore. He's not partially admitting. He's denying outright the 50 that's outstanding. Are you with me on this? Even if you're not with me on this, this is the case, right? The only way you get moda b'miktsas is if the guy levies the claim. I don't know if that's a real word over here. If the guy puts out the claim for the 100 first, the claimant, Reuven makes the claim for 100 and Shimon counters with a 50. If Shimon offers the 50 and Reuven counters with a 50 and Shimon counters with a denial of the 50, you no longer have moda b'miktsas anymore. Whether you like it or not, I see that y'all don't like this. Doesn't matter. That's the way it is. When Shimon gives Reuven 50, Reuven only has 50 more on the table. To that 50, Shimon is kofar bakol. He outright denies it. He says, I never got that money from you. That's not a partial admission. That's an outright denial of the 50. Fine. Which begs the question. In court, why would we ever allow a scenario where Reuven should go first? If we want to keep people away from swearing, theoretically, why not always let the defendant go first? How do we know that we don't let the defendant go first? Well, for this, we have another verse from this week's Torah portion. I'm going to share my screen for the online crew. Let's get inside as well. Oh, look at this. I skipped a paragraph in text 3. Oh, well, that's fine. Water under the bridge, yes.
In the first scenario, when he says, I'm not going to take the oath, and he's modeh b'miksa.
Yeah.
Does the court and the community assume that he is guilty, or would they ever assume that no, he's just a righteous person with a $50 bill that doesn't want to take an oath?
If we're going to be nice, we'll assume the latter. I think that's the nicer way of looking at it. The guy is probably, innocent, but he didn't want to swear, but he's still on the hook for the 50. It's a good question you're asking. I don't know. I don't know the psychology of how we're going to look at him, but either way, he's on the hook for essentially for the full amount, the full 100 in that case. You're asking a very good question. It might be something the commentaries discuss.
Could you repeat the question, because I didn't hear it?
The question basically, do we assume that he's guilty, or we assume that he's innocent but didn't want to swear? That's the question. If he says, I'm not going to take an oath, do we assume that he's guilty, that he's a liar, or do we assume that he's maybe innocent but didn't want to pay? It's a theoretical question. We're gonna let's keep on going, because we still haven't even hit. We have 17 minutes left. We haven't even hit the mystical part.
Rabbi,
so let's do text 4a. Yeah, very quickly, please.
Is the guy who came in and said this guy owes me 100? Does he ever have to take an oath?
No. We put the oath on the other guy. Okay, text 4. You can't take an oath and collect. Jewish law does not allow you to do that. You can't say, I promise that he owes me money, and then unilaterally collect. That's like saying, I promise that I'm right. How would that stand up in court? I don't have any proof, but I promise I'm right, and he owes me money. That doesn't stand. That doesn't stand up in court. Okay, text 4a. Take a look. This is how we know that the claimant goes first. And God said to Moses, come up with me to the mountain and remain there, and I will give you the stone tablets, the law and the commandments, which I have written to instruct them. So Moses and Joshua's servant arose, and Moses ascended to the mount of God. And to the elders, he said, wait for us here until we return to you. And here, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a case, listen to this. Whoever has a case, let him go to them. Whoever has a case means, this is when Moses went up to the mountain for 40 days, 40 nights to get the law, to get the tablets. So the communication was, whoever has a case, a legal case, should go to them, to Aaron and Hur, his nephew. So the idea that what we learn from here is, whoever has a case means whoever has the claim should be the one that approaches the court and speaks first in court. And we find this explicitly in the Talmud, text 4b. Rav Nachman said in the name of Rabbi Bar Avu, from where is it derived that a court first attends only to the claimant and only afterwards attends to the counterclaims of the defendant? As it is stated, whoever has a claim, let him come near to them. Whoever has a claim against another should submit his claim to them first. So we derive from the verses that when you have two litigants, that you always go, you first listen, the court first listens to the claim of the claimant, and only then to the counterclaim of the defendant. But again, in our case, that sets up a scenario of modeh b'mitzas. You only have the scenario of partial admission when you first have the claim, and then you have the response to the claim. Let it go the other way around. Let's first hear the defendant's words that I only owe 50. Let's wipe that out. Let's wipe out the 50. Then the remaining 50 is being totally denied. And that way we avoid an oath. Why are we setting up a scenario to have, an additional oath and all that scenario, all that chaos surrounding an oath, taking an oath, not taking an oath, owing money that you don't really owe, paying money that you don't really owe? Why create that scenario? Just have the defendant go first. Okay, so that's one question. And second question is text 4c. We see right here, text 4c on page 51. This comes from the Code of Jewish Law. It says, we call upon the claimant first. If there is a significant loss, for the defendant, then we call upon him first. So we do find there's an exception to the rule. In a case of a significant loss, and there's no time, I have zero time to explain a scenario, to weave a scenario where there's a significant loss. But if there's a significant loss, then in some cases, rare instances, we do allow the defendant to go first. And now the question is, so then what's going on here? Who's going first? Why is it typically that the rule is that the claimant goes first and only then the defendant? Why in certain extenuating circumstances do we let the defendant go first? And what does it mean that there's an a significant loss? What kind of scenario is that, etc.? So we're left with a bunch of questions on the law. Whether or not the questions are 100% clear, we're gonna move on and leave that aside for a moment. But the core thing that we've learned is that there's a scenario called Moda b'mikzas, where somebody takes someone else to court, drags them to court and says, I claim this full amount, and the defendant says, I counterclaim only a partial, and the law is an oath. But in certain cases, if there's a massive loss, then he doesn't have to take an oath because he goes first before the other guy. What's going on here? There are ways to answer this in Jewish law. We're not gonna go in tonight's class is not about explicating this, explaining this on a legalistic level. This class is all about the spirit of the law. We're going to learn the Kabbalah of the law. And so I present to you the mystical dimension of this law in all of its details. Okay, you have a claimant and a defendant. You have a party that says, you owe me, right? 100. The other guy says, no, only 50. So one guy claims a full amount, the other guy counters with a partial amount. What does this mean spiritually? Who is the claimant and who is the defendant? Who's the one dragging the other one into court and who's the one being dragged to court? When we look at the deeper teachings of Torah, we find something interesting. Anybody familiar with the Yetzer Hara? Are we familiar with that term, the Yetzer Hara? What is the Yetzer Hara? It's a working definition of the Yetzer Hara. Evil inclination. But did you know that according to our tradition, the evil inclination has another name? What's the other name for the evil inclination? Satan. And what is the Satan? Like Satan, right? What is the Satan? What does the Satan do? The Satan is not only the force inside, not the force, the voice inside that tries to persuade us to mess up, to do something wrong. But the Satan is also the prosecuting angel above that then drags us into court and says, look what he did. You with me on this? It's like a classic case of entrapment. You know what entrapment is? It's where you set someone up to break the law, and then you say, he broke the law. Look at that, he broke the law. You got to prosecute him, got to put him away, he broke the law. Meanwhile, who set him up in the first place? You set him up and then you try to throw him into the slammer. It's exactly what the Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara is the Satan, is the Malach HaMavet, the angel of death. It's all the same energy. You know what they say, judge, jury, and executioner? It's even more. It's the one that gives the bad advice, which is the one that then makes the claim, which is the one that then executes the punishment, quite literally. As the angel of death. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's take a look at this inside text number 5. Take a look, Talmud Bava Batra, the Yetzer Hara versus the people. I love that little caption, page 52. It was taught in a Braita with regards to Satan, Satan. He descends to the world and misleads a person into sinning as the evil inclination inside. He then ascends to heaven. This guy's busy. This guy's got mileage, right? He comes down and then gets us to mess up. Then he goes up to heaven, levels accusations against that very sinner and inflames God's anger against him. He then receives permission to act and takes away the sinner's soul as punishment, right? So he comes back down and then acts as the old, what is it? The Grim Reaper? Yes. Did I get that right? Is that the Grim Reaper? Yeah. Angel of death. That's a line that apparently, you heard about this? In that game, that epic football game, Kansas City? And
The Grim Reaper and the Angel of Death.
right, but the Kansas City, the Chiefs, who did the Chiefs just play?
Bills.
Chiefs and Bills. So apparently Andy Reid said to Patrick Mahomes, if you know who these are, great. If not, don't worry. Doesn't mean anything then. He said to him with 13 seconds left on the clock, down by 3 points. He said, when things get grim, be the Grim Reaper. That was his line. I don't know, whatever. But in this case, that sounds kind of dark. But here's the point. In this case, the Satan is the Yetzer Hara, is the prosecuting angel, and the angel of death that takes retribution. Reish Lakish says, back inside, Satan and the evil inclination are one and the same. Satan, who's Satan, who Yetzer Hara, same dude. So here's the meaning of this, my friends. We have a claimant and a defendant. Who's the claimant dragging the other one into court? Who's the one who's dragging the other one into court? Help me out here, based on this. Huh?
Oh, I thought you said who's dragging who?
Who's dragging who?
I just said the claimant, but I don't know who you're.
Right, no, who's the claimant in a spiritual sense?
The Yetzer Hara.
Yetzer Hara, the Satan, is dragged, and who's being dragged to court?
Our soul.
You and I are being dragged in the court. So it's the Satan that's dragging us into court. And what's the claim? The claim is, look, you see, I got this guy to sin. I got this person to sin. They're all mine, right? 100% is owed to me. 100%, they're mine. That's it. They're done. They're finished. There's no virtue anymore. There's no value. There's no goodness. They've darkened their soul. They've occluded. I don't even know if that's a word. I think it is. They've hidden their divine spirit. It's done. They've killed their goodness inside. It's finished. They're totally in my grasp. They owe me the full 100. That's the claim. We're now learning this law on a higher level, spiritual level. Okay. What's the counterclaim? Not 150. It says, I do owe you, but not 100, not 100%, 50. Why? Because even though I sinned, even though I messed up, even though I fell for your persuasions, but still there's a part of me that remains pure. There's a part of me that still remains connected to goodness and godliness and purpose. There's a part of me that remains faithful to my mission. And the truth is, there's a lot of me that still does mitzvot. Even when I do bad things, I still do good things. So I don't owe you 100%. I owe you 50% of your claim. You're claiming 100%, and my counter is 50. My counter is 50. Take a look at what the Alter Rebbe says. Okay, this is text number 6, page 53. The Alter Rebbe says the following: after the sinful act, however, the sinner's animal soul, which animates the body and is integrated into it, as well as his body itself, return and rise from the negativity and draw closer to the holiness of the divine soul that pervades them. The divine soul always believes in the one God and remains faithful to him even while the sin is being committed. It is just that she, the divine soul, is trapped within the clutch of the animal soul that is compelling the body to sin. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya something powerful, chapter 24 of Tanya, that even b'shas hachet, even as the sin is unfolding, the godly soul remains faithful to her God, to her purpose, to her mission. It's only that there are other parts of the body that are sinning. So the person claims, Satan claims, you're all mine, 100%, you owe me everything. And the person claims back, not true, I owe you everything. I didn't sin wholeheartedly. I sinned. Part of me engaged in sin. Part of me remained pure and unsullied by this action. Text 7, let's continue. Text 7, not only is part of us always pure, the reality is that everyone has a tremendous number of mitzvot, of good deeds, at least 50% good deeds. Text 7, the Talmud says, Reish Lakish said, with regard to the sinners of the Jewish people, the fire of Gehinnom has no power over them, as may be learned from the golden altar. The golden altar in the temple was only covered by gold, the thickness of a golden dinar. It's like a coin, thin layer of gold. Yet it stood for many years, and the fire did not burn it, for its gold did not melt. So too, the sinners of the Jewish people who are filled with good deeds, like a pomegranate, how much more so should the fire of Gehinnom have no power over them? In other words, even those that are called quote unquote sinners are also at the same time filled with good deeds, like a pomegranate. That's what the Talmud says. Even the sinners are filled with good deeds, which means the counterclaim to the Satan, to the Yetzer Hara, you're saying that that the person, the defendant, the person here being dragged into this heavenly court, the person is wholly and completely, holy, W-H-O-L-Y, is completely in the clutches of evil, 100% in the clutches of evil. The defendant says, I don't know what you're talking about. 100% in evil and in your clutches? Not true. Even while I sin, my godly soul wasn't part of that, wasn't privy to the sin. And the truth is, even as I sin, I also have good deeds. I'm filled with good deeds like a pomegranate. You understand the spiritual dialogue here? The spiritual dialogue is there's a claimant and a defendant. The claimant is the Satan. The claimant says, I got your soul, right? I got your soul. I sucked your soul, whoosh, right? You're possessed. Not, it's not a Jewish thing, but like, right? I got you. And the defendant says, you don't got me. Maybe a little bit you got me. You got me a little bit. This is called moda b'miktzah. I'm admitting, I'm confessing partially. Yeah, I did sin. I wasn't perfect, but all the way 100%? No, maybe 50, maybe 25. It doesn't have to be 50, maybe 10, maybe 70, but not 100%. That's the case. So what's the ruling? So the guilt that's admitted is admitted. But what's the ruling? You got to take an oath. You understand what we're doing here? We're learning a halacha in a completely mystical way. If this is confusing, I try to set this out from the beginning. We're learning a legal case from a spiritual perspective. We're taking the elevator straight to the top floor and learning a parallel situation on a completely different level of Torah interpretation. So we have a case where a claimant says, I lent you $100, and he says only 50, and he has to take an oath. Okay, good. That's the physical example. The spiritual example is the Satan says, I got you, you're mine. And the person says, no, you didn't. You got me a little bit, but not all the way. I still have virtue, I still have value, I still have holiness, I still have godliness, I'm still a good person. So what's the law? What's the ruling? Shvuah, you have to take an oath. What's the oath? What does the oath mean in a spiritual context? I'll tell you. Text 8. It's too long. And we did it Sundays in Kabbalah and Coffee. We just did it a few weeks ago. What's an oath? For those that are with us Sunday mornings, it's Overcoming Folly Discourse 14, where we just finished Discourse 15 this past Sunday. So we did it a few weeks ago, several weeks ago. Here's the deal. An oath in Hebrew is called shavua. The Hebrew word for oath is shavua. Shavua, if you re-vowelize the first letter, which is a shin, the Hebrew letter shin, if you put the dot on the right side, it's a shin. On the left side, it's a sin. So shavua turns into savua or soveya, which means to satiate or to, I guess satiate is the best word. When you give someone the energy, you feed them the energy, you give them whatever they need, you give them strength, you give them energy, you give them courage, you help someone out, you give them, you feed them energy. Satiate, sovea. So here's what it means. Person is being hauled into court, heavenly court, right? The Satan says, I got you. The person says, nope, not all the way. I still retain some goodness. So the verdict is, what you have to do? You take an oath. What's an oath? An oath is the opportunity to fill yourself with energy, the energy born of recommitment. In other words, facing this challenge of the Satan, facing the claim of the Satan that I got you and you're in my clutches and you're done and you're finished and your spiritual career is over. Might as well walk on the dark side and dance with me. Brother, dance with me, if that's what the Satan would say, right? The response is no, and this is an opportunity to reinvigorate oneself spiritually and double down and say, no, I'm not in your clutches, and I promise I'm not in your clutches, and I pledge my allegiance to God Almighty and to my purpose and to Torah and mitzvot, and I'm not going to follow you again. And you know what? I regret the 50% or whatever it is, whatever amount is that I followed your ways. And the oath is not literally an oath in the mystical sense. Oath means a recommitment. It's a pledge. It literally means a pledge, actually. It's a pledge. It's a recommitment, and it's re-energizing oneself to recommit, to refocus on the positive, the spiritual, the holy, and to turn away from all the mishagas. So we've portrayed the scenario. What's the scenario? Spiritual scenario. The Satan says, and by the way, Satan could be the inner voice. This happens to us all the time. Who am I kidding? Right? I'm going to come to a Torah class. am I shaykh to a Torah class? Is it for me? I know who I am. I know what I do. I'm going to suddenly put on these clothes of an angel and come to a Torah class. Come on. I'm going to light Shabbat candles this Friday night. What's the point? I didn't do it last week. I might not do it next week. Who am I kidding? I should wrap tefillin this morning. Who am I? Right? Come on. I'm a different type of person. I don't wrap tefillin. That's what the Satan says. Satan says, you're mine. You're not a holy person. You're not worthy of doing a mitzvah. Are you with me on this? Hopefully this is resonating. The Satan says, you're not worthy of a mitzvah. You're on my side, not that side. And so the Torah tells us you have to stand up to the Satan and say, no, even if you're partially correct, that I have flirted with, some other activities in the past. It doesn't make a difference. I'm still a good person. I'm still a Jew. I'm still a Yid. I still have an neshama. I still have a connection to Torah mitzvot. I still have a connection with Hashem. And I can still do the mitzvah right now, and it doesn't matter what you say. And that experience is called shavuah. It's soveya. It fills us with energy. It re-energizes us to focus on the correct thing. But we have one more twist. One more twist. Sometimes the defendant can go first in court when there's a great loss. We said this before. When there's an extreme loss on the table, the defendant can claim first, and when the defendant claims first, there's no oath. What does that mean? To understand this, and this is the final twist of today's class, we have to introduce one more Talmudic text. Notice it's interesting. Everything here, almost everything, all the texts come from the Talmud. We're literally using the Talmud. We're analyzing the Talmud and then elevating it to a much higher space. Here we go. Text number 9 from Talmud Chapter Brachot. This is page 57. Listen to this. When Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai fell ill, he was one of the leading sages, if not the leading sage of his generation. When Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai fell ill, his students entered to visit him. When he saw them, he began to cry. Lamp of Israel, the right pillar, the mighty hammer, the man whose life's work is the foundation of the future of the Jewish people. They said to him, why are you crying? They were praising him. Why are you crying? So he said to his students, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, I have two paths before me, one of the Garden of Eden and one of Gehinnom, heaven and hell. And I do not know on which they are leading me, and will I not cry? Right? So he says, I'm about to pass away, and I don't know where I'm going to go. Am I going to go up or down? Am I going to go right or left? Am I going to go to heaven or hell? So I shouldn't cry? Of course I'm going to cry. Yeah. So all the commentators asked the same question. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai wasn't sure if he was a tzaddik. You kidding me? How can you be so not self-aware? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is literally the guy who went to Vespasian, the Roman general, who became the Roman emperor, and secured a space to keep Judaism alive, a city called Yavna, where Torah study would be reestablished. This was at the time of the Second Temple's destruction. He literally saved Judaism, as we know it today. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is not sure whether he's going to heaven or hell. Are you kidding? Well, if that's the case, then we're all doomed. I mean, then we're all goners. How? But on a serious note, how was he uncertain? How was he uncertain? Here's what the Rebbe says. The Rebbe shares something that is absolutely life-changing and mind-blowing, and this is the final text for today, text number 10. Okay, page 58. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was consumed at every moment with his service of God by studying Torah and observing the mitzvot. He was so involved with this mission that he had no time to halt his service and reflect on his overall state. How can he stop and think about himself and about his standing while there's a mission to complete? However, at the time of his passing, when he was completing his life's mission, he stopped his work to finally make an honest accounting. After all, if he didn't do it then, when would he? And that is what caused him to weep. Let me explain what the Rebbe says. The reason why Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was so not self-aware is because he never analyzed himself. He didn't think about himself. Oh, am I righteous? Am I not righteous? Am I worthy? Am I not worthy? Am I holy? Am I not holy? Am I a tzaddik? Am I not a tzaddik? He never had those thoughts throughout his whole life. Why? Because he was doing his mission. He was so busy in the tap. You know, like when you're in the moment, you're not analyzing the moment. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. He was in the moment. He was locked into the experience. He wasn't analyzing, oh, how's it going? You know, when you ask the question like, oh, how's this relationship going? It's when you're not fully immersed in the relationship, right? It's like, you're outside and you're kind of analyzing, saying, okay, well, where is this going or how is this going, it means you're not fully invested. You're not fully, it's not a criticism. It's just saying you ask that when you're outside of it. You don't ask it when you're inside of it. When you're inside of it, you're just inside of it. You're just living in the moment. It's like, you're on the dance floor. It's a simcha, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, a bas mitzvah, whatever it is. And you're on the dance floor. And you're totally locked into the experience. And you're so happy that you're dancing. You're not thinking, how do I look? Do I know the dance moves? Right? If you're doing the hora with a bunch of guys, right? Should my hand go on the right shoulder or the left shoulder? Like, you're not thinking, you're not analyzing, you're just. And then you see the video and you're like, oh, then you can cringe later. You cringe, the cringe comes later. But if you're cringing, here's the point. If you're cringing in the moment, you know what that means? Then you're not in the moment. If you're cringing in the moment, you're not in the moment. The Rebbe says something powerful. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai lived his life always in the moment. You know what they call this in modern psychology? Because it sounds cool. Living in the flow. He was always in the flow. You know what flow is? Flow. I think somebody wrote a book called Flow. That's how cool that is. Flow. Yeah, flow. It's like when like basketball players are like locked in for free throws. They're not even thinking about it. They're just totally in the moment. Like Shaq couldn't make a free throw. He was overthinking it. He was just blocking himself out. Shaq, Shaquille O'Neal. He owns the Krispy Kreme that got burnt down twice on Ponce. Yeah, it was arson. Twice. Right here, a local Krispy Kreme. Anyway, we're not going to talk about Krispy Kreme. It's not about donuts right now. But it is. It always is. Donuts, by the way, have calories. It was kosher. Yeah, it was kosher. Kosher Krispy Kreme. I'm going to call this a hate crime. I don't want to throw it. No. I'm not being flippant. I'm not. All right. Nah, I'm not being flippant here. All right. Back to our story. Let's wrap this up. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai lived his life in the flow. He was in the spiritual flow. He wasn't analyzing. Am I a tzaddik? How do I look? Does God like me? Does God not like me? Is it this? Is it that? He's not thinking about this stuff. Who has time to think about yourself when you have a mission to do? It's not about me. It's about the mission. The Rebbe says on his deathbed, that was the first time in his life that he said, wait a second, hold on. Did I do what I need to? Am I a tzaddik? Am I not a tzaddik? And of course, the conclusion is, yeah, you're a tzaddik. But the first time he ever even processed that thought was at the end of his life. Why? Because he never was about processing thoughts. He was just living in the moment. And this takes us to the most dazzling explanation of the conclusion of this idea. When the Satan claims, I got you. You're not worthy. You're not spiritual. You're not holy. You're not a tzaddik. Look at you. I got you to sin. Admit who you are. I got you. You're 100% mine. There's two options. One option is to say, well, I promise from now on, I'm going to be good. I'm going to be true to mission. You take that pledge. You take that oath. You swear. You energize yourself. That's one option. The second option is, in a case of extreme loss, you don't have to take an oath. What does that mean? Loss, time. The greatest loss we have is time. Who has the time to answer that inner voice? Who has the time to waste their time and say, no, I am holy, I'm not holy? Who cares what the Yetzer Hara says? Who cares? We have good things to accomplish. When the inner voice says, oh, you're not worthy, you say to the inner voice, sorry, buddy, I got an appointment with the next mitzvah. I don't have time to deal with your analysis. I don't have time to analyze myself. Am I holy? Am I not holy? Am I worthy? Am I not worthy? Am I kosher? Am I not kosher? I don't have time. I got the next mitzvah waiting for me. This is the antidote. This is the response, the best, the highest level response to the inner voice, to those inner doubts, to those inner suspicions that maybe we're not as holy as we would think. The response is, who has time to analyze? Who has time for the couch? Who has time for the spiritual therapy? There's stuff to do. There's a world that needs to be fixed, that needs tikkun olam. There are people who need me. There's a world that needs me. There's God who needs me to do my job. And I'm going to start taking my time and answering the claims of this nudnik, Yetzer Hara, Satan, Malach HaMavis. I need to answer this guy. Are you kidding me? What? I'm bored? I have nothing to do in my life. I'm going to say, oh, sure, let's have a dialogue. A dialogue? I got stuff to do, bro. I got a mitzvah to do. This is what God told Moses in Egypt. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go because they have an appointment with me at Sinai. Not, oh, you're a bad guy, Pharaoh. You're violating human rights. You should know that the Geneva Convention, no, none of that stuff. None of that stuff. We have an appointment at Sinai. Gotta run, bro. I gotta go. I have no time for shenanigans. I gotta go. I don't even have time to argue with you. I just gotta go. This is the greatest response to the inner voice that says, you're not worthy, you're not holy, you're a fraud, you're an imposter, you're not legit, you're not really, you're not really. I don't have time. I just don't have time. This was classically the Rebbe's approach to the psychological stuff that torments us. Because we live in a world in which the going theory is you got to engage every thought and analyze it and break it down and deal with it and say, oh, is it right? Is it not right? And the Rebbe's approach so often, not always, but so often was, who has time for all this stuff? And while you're grappling with all that stuff to figure it out, you know how many opportunities are passing us by? Who has the time? Who has the time? Right? It's like, I am worthy, I'm not worthy, I am a tzaddik, I'm not a tzaddik. Who, what, where, when? You got the next mitzvah. I said this story recently. Rabbi Schussman said this story also recently. It's like the Rebbe told this college student, I want you to go and put on tefillin with people, other students. And the guy says, full disclosure, I confess, I don't always put on tefillin myself. The response is, so why should that hold you back from putting on tefillin with others? Why should they suffer because of you not putting on tefillin? So who cares? Now, it's kind of like, get over yourself. It's not about you. I don't put on tefillin, so I can't put on tefillin on others. Forget about you and put on tefillin. Others need you. So you're not perfect? Who cares? The Rebbe's perspective was always, you don't have to be perfect to create a perfect world. You don't have to answer about your perfection to the Satan when the world is waiting for your contribution. Every single human being has a contribution to make to this world. The world cannot exist without your contribution. It can't. That's what God put you in this world. It cannot reach its fulfillment without your contribution. So what? You're going to delay your contribution because you're trying to figure things out? Don't make this about you. Make this about what you need to do. That's Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. He never thought about himself. He was thinking about his mission. And this is the ultimate antidote against those voices of self-doubt. The ultimate antidote is stop getting caught up in it. Don't get caught up in the drama. Just go higher. The drama is here. Just go over the drama. Just go over the drama. It says, oh, maybe you're not, maybe this, maybe that. See you later. We'll talk about this later. I got something I need to do. I got something very important. I have a mitzvah to do. So the next time you're ready to do a mitzvah, the next time the voice comes into your mind and says, you know what, let me go out to a kosher restaurant for lunch. And then the inner voice says, oh, kosher, suddenly now you're going to go to a kosher restaurant. Dismiss that thought immediately and say, I'm not going to get into the analysis now. Whether or not I am or I'm not, whether I'm not, I am doing what I should be doing other times, it's irrelevant. Because right now, I got an appointment at Fuego or at Formaggio or at Spicy Peach or at Chai Peking. Okay, we don't have that many options here, but I think I've listed all of them. Right now, huh? Togo Grill. Oh, and Togo Grill and Tip Top. Right? Okay, not bad. We're getting more as the conversation goes on. But tell yourself, I'd love to banter this around. I'd love to like analyze where I'm holding, do like a full deep dive analysis into where spiritually I am. But I got to eat some kosher food right now. It's time to light Shabbat candles. Oh, I didn't do it last week. I feel guilty about it. Stop. No guilt. What's the guilt? The guilt's just going to hold you back. Even answering no, because really, don't even answer it. Don't answer the inner voice. Just Jew it, Nike says. Just Jew it. And so, my friends, we've learned a halacha according to Jewish mysticism. We took a law, we explained the parameters, and then we learned everything. We replicated the entire experience on a different plane. We talked about Moda B'Miktsas, where there's a claim of 100, a counterclaim of 50, an oath that's required, or The defendant goes first and overrides the oath in case of extreme loss. And we explained all of those details on a spiritual level. The Satan says, no, you're mine. I got you. The counterclaim is you got me partially. The solution to that dilemma is take an oath and redouble your efforts. But because of the great loss of time and energy, time is a commodity we cannot get back. Every second is precious. And so because of the preciousness of time, we can't afford to start dealing with the claim and taking oaths. Just bypass the case and just do the next right thing. Thank you very much for joining me tonight for Torah studies. I hope this made sense. I hope my called shot was shot or whatever. I don't know what the right follow-up was, but I hope you enjoyed the class. Thank you. Now you kind of feel compelled. No, I'm kidding, not you, but all right. Either way, thank you very much for being part of the experience. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it made sense. Made sense, guys? Yes? Yes?
Rabbi.
Yes, Ray.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Does Satan appear when you're dying, before you die? When does Satan appear?
When do we have time to start analyzing?
No.
Oh, the
when
Satan. Oh, when does Satan? No, the Satan. Oh, good question. Classically, Satan, yeah, it's a good question. You know, it's a complicated thing. There is a judgment that happens after a person passes away, an assessment. But according to the Talmud that we studied, there's a judgment that might happen at any point in time, upon which the Satan might say, "No, let me take him out." God forbid. So when does that happen? I have no idea, but it seems like it could happen potentially at any time. But according to this, we have an answer. Sorry, but that's on a maybe a more classical level, but on a more personal level, the Satan, the way we're framing it here is not just an accusation, a prosecution, some sort of random heavenly court case, but it's that inner voice inside, inner voice that says, who are you to do the mitzvah? Who are you? You're not a mitzvah person. That's not you. That's Satan who says that. Satan says, you're not that person. Who are you fooling? That's not you. You're being a hypocrite. Oh, hypocrite, you're a liar. You're pretending. Stop being fake. Be really you. You know who you are. Come on. I know who you are. You know who you are. Stop faking. That's an evil voice. That's where it gets evil. It pretends to be authentic, real, legit. It's pretending to be so real and authentic. It's the worst. It's so devious. That's what we're talking about tonight. I know that's not your question. Your question is, when does this court case happen? I don't know. I don't know when it happens. But that's the danger. Steve, yeah.
Yeah, as our Rabbi Ari's dad said, don't be afraid, right? Commit yourself to your relationship with Hashem. It's going to be cool.
Yeah. Your dad said that. Yeah. In Journey of the Soul. That was an unbelievable experience. I actually recently looked back at the video. I think it was right by your dad's yard site. I went back to the video to take to relive that dialogue. Very, very special. But yeah, we can't live in fear. That's the point. We can't live in fear. We can't, what's the Lashon? What's the word? Kowtow, maybe, or something like that. We can't dance around this voice. Just gotta steamroll it, just with an 18-wheeler. Like, I literally don't have time. Standing up, no, wait, like, we have to talk about this. Where are we in this relationship? See you, I gotta go. We gotta go, keep on moving forward. No time. Adam dayeg al damav, ve'enei dayeg al yamav. It says, a beautiful statement. A person worries about his money, doesn't worry about his time. Damav enam oizrim, money doesn't help. V'yamav enam chayzrim, and time never comes back. Right? We worry about money. Meanwhile, money, what's money going to do? Yeah, but time is a precious commodity. Ooh.
We say the vidui at the end, right?
Yeah. You say the confession.
But then you're what, you're admitting things and you're asking for forgiveness?
That's forgiveness. Yeah, like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai did. At the end, you're being contemplative. You're thinking, okay, so where am I holding? What do I need to make amends for? But to take time away from our mission, to start thinking about and trudging up, whatever, all the dredging up, all of the negativity. That's a distraction. It's exactly what the Satan wants us to do. Exactly. He wants us to keep us in a spiral of negativity, of circling around the negativity to keep us stuck. That's exactly if we do that, if we spend our days thinking about what I did do, what I didn't do, and not doing what we need to be doing, hook, line, and sinker. It has us hook, line, and sinker. The Rebbe says, I love this. Thank you, Sandrine, for sharing. You cannot add more minutes to the day, but you can utilize each one to the fullest. And that's what we're talking about here. It's not, that's in Paris. Oh, nice. Oh, the Rebbe in Paris. Beautiful.
What's the difference exactly between Yetzer Hara and Satan?
So that way, the Talmud says it's basically the same thing. It's all the negative force.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but one refers to the voice inside and one refers to it in the mode of prosecution. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing, because even the prosecution happens inside. That's what I'm trying to share tonight.
Right.
Like my chiddush, my addition, my angle tonight is that the prosecution is what's inside. The prosecution is, don't light Shabbat candles. Who are you to light Shabbat candles? Don't be a faker. Don't be a hypocrite. And the response is, bye-bye, no time. I got to light Shabbos candles. Don't eat kosher. Why are you eating kosher? It's basically imposter syndrome, spiritual imposter syndrome. Straight up, spiritual imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is not believing that you are worthy, that you are capable, that you are deserving. And the inner voice says, you're deserving of a mitzvah? You're 100% mine. And the response shouldn't be, well, no, 50, because you know what? You're still engaging with it. You're still what's the word I'm looking for? Not engaging. You're still not amused.
Giving it validity?
Yeah, you're validating it. Exactly. You're validating it. Oh, no, not 150. It says, no, 75, no, 70. You want to spend your days negotiating? Well, what is this? Negotiating? We have time to negotiate. Meanwhile, we miss a mitzvah because we're negotiating. But this is, it's for those, and I feel a little bit bad because I want to share something that I'm going to share tomorrow in the JLI class, but some of you took it last night, so you know what I'm talking about. I'll mention it very briefly. It's the same idea as Hesach Hadas, which we spoke about last night. Hesach Hadas is just put it out of your mind and move forward. Hesach Hadas means don't think about it. Don't think about it. The moment you think about it, you're done. You're done. You're thinking about it. You're processing it. You're analyzing it. You're grappling with the thought. I like it. I don't like it. I want to get rid of it. Even if you're trying to get rid of it, finish. There's one solution. Move forward. Vayisa'u. The Jews at the sea. They want to fight with the Egyptians. They want to go back. God says, just keep on moving forward. There's no time. You got to get to Sinai. You have a date with God at Sinai. Who told you to stop? Keep on moving. This was, maybe in other generations, there was other approaches, whatever. The Rebbe's perspective in our generation was, this is the healthiest and the only approach that's going to be effective, because otherwise we're going to drive ourselves crazy and spend years and countless monies in therapy. I don't mean that cynically. I'm just saying it's going to be a never-ending cycle and circle of this and that and the other. The healthiest, and everyone knows this, the healthiest we've ever been is when we had a mission and we were focused on it and we were doing what we needed to be doing and we were locked in and we weren't thinking about all this stuff. Everyone in a moment of honesty knows that what I'm saying is true. You are at your healthiest when you're locked in to what you need to be doing. When you're not doing what you need to be doing and you're thinking about all the stuff, that's when it's the most dangerous. That's what the Rebbe said. Yeah, does this make sense? Yes?
Yeah.
I'm saying everyone agrees with this, but it's a bit of a presumption. But I believe that everyone knows it to be true. All right, my friends. Yeah. Good.
Rabbi, I want to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you so much, Steve.
I'm a day late. And
Okay.
I was impressed by your anecdote, I think last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, about the guide dog and the Rebbe mentioning that please find a way to
Yeah.
allow the gentleman in, to join in the services with his guide dog.
Right.
And so now I understand why you allow dogs in your Zoom class.
Oh,
And,
there you go.
and you
Right.
should be commended for that.
See that? We're an equal opportunity space. Good. All right. It's getting very late. I'm going to run. Any other questions? Feel free to email or call or whatever. We can schmooze offline. I want to wish everybody a Laila Tov. Don't forget, a few very important announcements. Number one, for those of you that did not have a chance to join the new JLI course meditation from Sinai, I can tell you without a question, without a shadow of a doubt, you want to take this course. So there's an opportunity in person tomorrow at noon. If you can't make it tomorrow at noon right here, then grab the recording. You can email me. Let's get you in on this. It is too good to miss. So that's announcement number one. Announcement number two, I'm going to reiterate my invitation. Friday night dinner, 6:30 for those that can make it, for those that wish to make it. We're doing a Shabbat dinner in honor of my birthday. You can have a chance to say l'chaim and celebrate. It's a lavish, literally lavish 4-course meal, and everyone is invited. You can join us, my family and I, and our extended family, of course, all of you. 6:30 p.m. Friday night. Just let me know and we'll save a spot for you. So that is that. Next Monday, we have Rosh Chodesh Society Challah Baking Extravaganza. We're going to be learning the spiritual significance of challah baking, as well as learning some practical challah making hacks from the challah girl, who has a tremendous business locally here in Atlanta with an Instagram account. She is also a good friend of ours, and she is going to be presenting along with Leah, my wife, Monday night, Rosh Chodesh Society. I forgot to mention Sunday night is our Jewish book club. The Beauty Queen of Jerusalem is the book. We have a fantastic conversation, both in person and online. If you read the book, if you're part of it, if you're not part of it, you want to just grab the Cliff Notes, you can join. Take a look on the website for more information about that. What else is upcoming? What else? RCS we did. We have an event with Hidden Secrets of Jerusalem, an online event. Check out information for that on our website, intownjewishacademy.org. I'm going to let you guys go. It's getting late.
I have one question. Could it be called Being in the Matrix?
Which piece of it?
After just going ahead and being in the Matrix, not thinking about.
Could be. I mean, it depends on what you mean by me. Yeah, it could be. It's about just not being gurus. It's just not even entertaining the conversation. I gotta go. I got my things to do.
Right. That's according to what you described as the Matrix in your Matrix course.
Okay. Could be. Could be. Yeah. All right.
Sollish, thank
yes.
you.
Pleasure. Laila Tov. Laila
Laila
Tov. Thanks for all the good
Tov, thank
wishes.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see everybody. Take care.